This guy's a leading economist by the name of Paul Zane-Pilzer. He calls it a wellness revolution. Now, when I first saw that, I thought, revolution? That's a pretty strong word. And the reason he calls it a revolution is because it is against status quo. He said the government's not supporting this. In fact, they're almost antagonistic against it. The medical complex is not supporting this because it doesn't go along with status quo. He said the insurance industry and the co-payers aren't supporting it because it doesn't go along with status quo. He said, but there is a huge movement in the hinterlands, and it is all about wellness. It is people that are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They don't want their diseases managed for the rest of their life. They want a quality of life that is deserving of every human being. And so they're looking for strategies to make themselves healthy, to make themselves well. And he says this is going to be the next trillion-dollar industry in the world today, is this thing called wellness. Here's the market drivers that will drive it to $1 trillion. He said, first of all, the demand for a more integrative approach to healthcare. Integrative means that in conjunction with standard of care, people find products and services that support all of the normal physiological functions of recovery and regeneration. And that's a God-given gift inside of every gene of every cell. He said, but you got to support it. And you got to know how to support it. See, it's interesting. When you look at that World Health Organization list of countries, and USA is down there at 72nd, look at the top 10. You know what they all have in common with each other? These are Eastern countries whose culture for thousands of years was about natural, herbal, and nutritional components designed to support the body's normal physiology. Now, when Western medicine came, they didn't reject it. They just integrated it in, but they never lost contact with their roots. The father of pharmacology, Paracelsus, said everything a man needs to sustain health is provided by God in nature, not in chemical labs, in nature. It's the job of science to go find it. So these cultures have been intuitively connected to that philosophy since the beginning of time. And so what happens? Their population enjoys a quality of life and a quality of health unlike anything we see over here at a fraction of the cost. So integrative health, he said, is a major driver. That is huge. That's number one. Number two, weight management. We see our population expanding, and I don't mean by numbers. And it's going on all over the world. It's a global phenomenon. A lot of it is because modern food has lost an awful lot of its nutritional value. And what happens is we get foods that grow faster and better, but nutritionally deficient. So we're eating a lot of empty calories, and we see, our population expand. So he said, technologies that help people fight that battle of fat gain are going to be a premium in this next 10 to 20 years. And last but not least is the baby boomer generation hitting retirement age and deciding that, you know what, we want to still be productive. We want to still be a part of life. We want to be a part of solutions. And you know what, they're not just accepting that poor health comes with aging. That's not natural. That's what we've been led to believe, and good grief, in the United States, it's like the elderly need to have access to free drugs. Well, folks, not if you're healthy. And the baby boomer generation has driven every marketing trend for the last 50 years. And Paul Zane-Pilzer says they are bound and determined to stay healthy, and so that is the third market driver that will make wellness $1 trillion industry. So what is it going to look like over the next 10 to 15 years? Here's what's at stake. Today, which was in 1995, the nutrition industry was about a $50 billion industry, had about 4,000 companies, and about 200 companies did about 50% of the business. They predict that by 2015 to 2020, this wellness industry will go to $1 trillion. But there'll only be about 2,000 companies. Because as we move farther along in wellness, the technologies that don't serve people appropriately are tending to be discarded off to the side, because wellness is an interesting industry. It is all about results. It's not marketing slogans and fancy labels and great advertising. That can only go to step one. The minute someone takes the product, that's where the rubber hits the road. And if they don't see a benefit, guess what? They don't take the products anymore. And so wellness is a results-driven industry, and as a result of that, they predict that about half the companies will fall off in the next 10 years. Here's the statistic that's significant, though, as it pertains to us, and that is only 20 companies will control about 80% of this industry. So who are those companies? According to these guys, here's what you got to have to be a top 20 company. Number one, you have to have the most scientifically advanced technologies for wellness. You have to have stuff that's scientifically advanced so that it does achieve results. Number two, the most proprietary technologies, meaning you better own these technologies. Because if you don't own it, people mimic it and mimic it and mimic it, and it gets dummied down, and pretty soon nobody can tell fact from fiction anymore. Whether it's patents or trade secrets, you better own what you've developed. And number three, and this is interesting, the most disruptive. What does that mean? The most challenging to status quo. Because he said if wellness is going to reach $1 trillion, it is absolutely going to disrupt our current healthcare philosophy. So where does Manatech stand in this arena? I want to talk to you about our core technology that we discovered about 10 years ago, filed patents on, and what has happened in the arena of wellness in terms of this technology, because it will give you some idea of where we are positioned to capture market share in this wellness environment over the next 10 to 15 years.